Hello! Claim this free ebook now that explains you all you need to know about choosing Rolex wristwatches. It also shows production videos and what experts say about maintaining your watch. Get the best value for your money. Simply enter your first name and primary email address below now and download your free ebook. Thank you.